Hello and welcome to another Armchair Athletes live stream. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and I cannot wait to update all of you on all the stuff going on right now in the NFL. Plenty of roster updates, plenty of injury updates, plenty of things that I want to get all of you going on as soon as possible. So make sure that you tap in. Typically, we don't do an extra thing like this, but I know we have extra games on the Thanksgiving Day slate. So, as somebody who just wants to update all of you on the fantasy football world on how these different situations impact various players, figured I would hop on for about half an hour to 45 minutes. So, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. If it's your first time tapping in, make sure you like and subscribe if you get value out of the content I'm providing. I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and of course, I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. Make sure that you follow us on all social medias. Those links are in the description. And then, of course, make sure you check out the Start to Sit One YouTube short series we have going on. All 4 posts should be up of that by the middle of Thursday, because we do have Thanksgiving games going on. So I will have 2 people you should start and 1 you should sit at the position of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and of course, tight end. So now, without further ado, let's get into some Week 12 injuries and roster updates. And as per usual, folks, as I go through these different points, if you have any questions about those points, or if you have any questions about your lineup going into the Thursday slate, going into the Sunday slate, going into Week 12 in general, as we approach your fantasy football playoffs, make sure you pop those in as well. So this is kind of a teaser. It popped up at the beginning. Big news. Top 5 fantasy quarterback. He was QB4 going into this week, which he then got injured. Dislocated shoulder for Justin Fields. The Bears have not ruled out this being a season-ending injury. So, of course, because he is on the IR, if you're an ESPN, plop Justin Fields right in that IR spot. Not too much you can do about it. It's not somebody you want to be taking up a spot on your roster in terms of, obviously, the starting lineup, but the bench as well. So plop him over to your IR spot. If you cannot, I guess we can wait on an extra update here. Nonetheless, this is already a run-heavy team in the Chicago Bears. So in terms of people around Justin Fields that I feel like are going to be impacted, and that's what I'll be doing, folks. I'm going over injury updates, going over roster cuts, and various other accounts of news. I'm not only going to be talking about the move itself, but how it impacts the players around them, and ultimately how it impacts your fantasy team if you have one of these guys. So with Justin Fields, I don't see too much of a ripple effect, as you saw in the thumbnail, associated with Mike Williams, who we will get to. It's already a run-heavy team. I think David Montgomery may get more touches because it was pretty much Justin Fields, then David Montgomery, then Khalil Herbert. With Justin Fields not being in there and Trevor Siemian being slotted in, I don't see Siemian, tucking and running a whole lot, right? I think that's a fair analysis. See some more pocket passes, maybe an uptick in production for a guy like Chase Claypool. This offense is already experimenting a ton. They can't really throw it less than they already do. So even though there is a backup quarterback in there, typically when backup QBs go in, I personally feel like it's going to be more of a run-heavy scheme. You can't get more run-heavy than the Bears are doing right now. I mean, you really can't unless there's poor weather. It's 40 to 60. 40% of the time they are passing the ball. 60% they're running it. So with Trevor Siemian, I expect to see maybe a little bit more action with Chase Claypool. Siemian's an active backup. He's got a handful of starts under his belt. So maybe they try and use their investment, the Bears do, in the second rounder that they got in Claypool. Really not sure. But I definitely think that Monty gets plenty of usage. Khalil Herbert's out. Justin Fields is out. He's kind of the only one left in this backfield. So that is something we definitely want to watch for. Brian Pereira, welcome, man. Thank you for hopping in the stream once again. Corey almost had a Monday Night Miracle last night, down by 55. Had CMC, James Conner, 49ers defense, and Robbie Gould losing last night by 2. That's tough, man. Conner got his touchdown. CMC did what he does. Deebo Samuel had a really nice night, and George Kittle. Make matters worse, I had Hurts on my bench, who scored 2 more points than Justin Fields. Such a killer. I feel you, man. I needed Deebo Samuel to beat DeAndre Hopkins by like 10 points, and he beat him by 4. So that was a bit of a nail-biter for me as well, Brian. If you've got any questions going into Week 12, going into these Thanksgiving games, make sure you let me know right now, Brian. I'll be on for the next about 30 to 45 minutes, just going over some updates in terms of injuries and all that. I was going to say good stuff, but not so good stuff. So next guy I want to go over here is Kyle Pitts going to the IR. Obviously somebody I felt was very overrated, the number 4 overall pick not too long ago, really not being used a whole lot. And we went over the fact that Mr. Kyle Pitts, had a 46% catch percentage on throws from Marcus Mariota. He's got a torn MCL, so nothing confirmed yet in terms of what's going to be done about it. I doubt he would try and play through that If Mr. Pitts does have surgery, that would end his season entirely. So we want to look around Kyle Pitts. How can you take advantage of this for your fantasy team? Let's look at guys like Drake London or trading for Cordero Patterson, who's probably already taken by somebody, or Tyler Algier. As we know, this is a four-headed backfield led by Cordero Patterson and Tyler Algier. Now we've got a wide receiver spot. I'm just going to call Pitts a wide receiver. I mean, he's just a pass catcher in general. Obviously the tight end spot, but I've got a wide receiver spot open in Drake London is what I was trying to say, where, you know, maybe he's going to get more targets. He was already leading the team in targets, and Pitts was a close second. He just wasn't, you know, catching a whole lot. He was catching it less than half the time. So definitely somebody I felt was overrated, but still high usage nonetheless, albeit the productivity wasn't there. I think we're going to see some more throws to Drake London, obviously. Maybe get deeper in that lineup as well, but reliable people I would go for. Drake London would probably be a trade. Cordero Patterson's going to have to be a trade. Algier you might be able to nab off of waivers. Maybe Drake London too if you're in a shallower league. Let's go to some injuries. Let's keep going through these injuries. This one, not season ending, but very irritating. This revolving door of a Chargers offense in terms of the lack of health. I mean, Keenan Allen's out for nearly the whole year. Mike Williams in and out, coming back from a high ankle sprain. Joshua Palmer in and out. Gerald Everett in and out. Guyton's on the IR. Just left and right. It's literally just Herbert. And Herbert had the ribs earlier this year. It's Herbert and Eckler and not many other people, right? So Mike Williams is out for 2 to 3 weeks. He re-aggravates his high ankle sprain. So Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer, and DeAndre Carter. Those are the guys I see having upside. Keenan Allen had the big fumble, but then he had a huge catch down the stretch and what almost ended up being enough for his team. Then the Chiefs went down, did what they do to the Chargers, and scored last. Joshua Palmer has been consistent, coming off another huge game where he had a monster touchdown. DeAndre Carter has had some upside as well, and I actually want to pull up Carter here. So if you just joined the stream, welcome. Just doing some Week 12 injury and roster updates, and then, of course, answering all of your questions if you have any that come up. DeAndre Carter, I mean, Joshua Palmer, the secret's out on him, right? The production's been there. DeAndre Carter is somebody I really want to highlight, folks. Here we go. Being impacted by Mike Williams possibly being out 2 to 3 weeks. If you're a Mike Williams owner, you're pretty frustrated, but how do you pivot? Maybe you go to a guy like DeAndre Carter, who isn't owned in a whole lot of leagues, had 10 points here, 16 points here, even 6 points here, only had 3 targets, but again, that's with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and of course, the ball hawk in Austin Eckler in there as well. So, you know, I really think that DeAndre Carter could be a possible option for you, just in terms of an increased amount of production with one of those weapons out. That's kind of where my mind is at there. Jeff Johnson's got a question. Jeff, I will get to you in just a moment. I just have 3 more updates in terms of guys going on the injured reserve, re-aggravating injuries like what I just talked about with Mike Williams, and then being cut and or starting this upcoming week and the ripple effect those things can have. Next one, kind of big in terms of the pieces around him and how they're impacted. Melvin Gordon gets waived following his 5th fumble of the season. Definitely not something that I expected. I mean, both of these backs were definitely struggling in him and Latavius Murray. Javonte Williams seemed like the answer coming in, and then he gets hurt, season-ending injury. Too many fumbles here was the story at the end of the day with Melvin Gordon. I don't see too many teams going after a fumble-heavy running back who I believe is over the hill, you know, in his upper 20s now as their starter. So I would not jump all over Melvin Gordon in the waiver wire. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I think he's going to go in a better position. I think he will end up going to a team that's going to sign him. They're going to start him. He's going to get 20 touches a game. He's going to be way more efficient. Broncos O-line isn't amazing, but Melvin Gordon's not going to go out and get 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, nor is he going to get the 15 to 20 touches that he used to get in his glory days in Los Angeles, or it was San Diego at that point. So I would not jump all over Gordon in the waiver wire. I wouldn't test out his value and start, you know, going after him and trying to see what you can give away for him. I don't think he's worth a whole lot. He is owned in more than half of leagues. It's going to drop. It's not somebody I would really waste a waiver spot on. See where he goes. Someone's going to pick him up, but I really just think he's going to be a feature back in a running back room that's lacking depth. He's going to back somebody up. I could see like the Saints going after him and saying, yep, you can back up Kamara, right? Like there's just so many different spots where I think he could be a great running back too, but I don't think he is at the level anymore where he can be a running back 1, especially when you've got fumble issues. I mean, you will be dropped faster than a hot potato. I mean, we've seen it in the Bill Belichick offense. If you fumble, you're probably done for the day. So just the same approach over there in Denver. See, Kevin's got a question as well. Kevin, I will get to you in a moment. Darrell Henderson being waived as well. Another low production situation, averaging less than 4 yards a carry, as Gordon was, but not as involved in the passing game. That was really the only appeal with Melvin Gordon, was his involvement in the passing game. So low productivity for Darrell Henderson. Who does this impact? It's mainly going to be the other members of the backfield. We're talking Cam Akers now in that running back one spot. He had a struggling beginning of the year where he really wasn't able to get much going. And then, of course, Kieran Williams as well, getting upside. Had a handful of touches last week. Henderson kind of being phased out of the game plan and dropped, seemed to be complacent with it. Obviously, you're never going to be happy about that, but nonetheless. Sam Darnold to start is my last update. It's the quarterback roulette over there right now in Carolina. Doesn't really change the people around him, more of just an update I want to provide you. I will say this, it's PJ Walker, it's Baker Mayfield, it's Sam Darnold. The wide receiving core is something I don't hate. We've got some talent here when we look at the Carolina Panthers. If we go here, again, if you guys are just joining, thank you for joining me on this Tuesday night heading into Week 12. We got 3 turkey games coming up in 2 days, so make sure that you like and subscribe if you do end up getting value out of this live stream. Popping into the Panthers depth chart here, DJ Moore, Laviska Shenault, somebody we definitely shouldn't be sleeping on. He was a prominent part of that Jaguars wide receiving core last year. Terrace Marshall Jr. was interesting. He was owned in less than 10% of leagues until a couple weeks ago. He was on that LSU team, second rounder. He's with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Had a handful of touchdowns for them his junior year and then got drafted. We had a couple question marks in that matchup against Atlanta. 2 targets is not something I'm a big fan of, but 9, 6, and 6 for a guy who's owned in less than 20% of leagues at the moment is something I am a fan of. If you need a plug and play, I know we're starting to phase out of the bye weeks, but we're still in only week 12. You got 10.6 here. You've got 5.3, not something I'm a big fan of. 14.3, 12.7. Those are things I'm a fan of. Obviously, a weaker secondary in a close game against Atlanta. It turned into a pretty run-heavy scheme once Deontay Foreman was doing well against the Atlanta Falcons, and then against Baltimore, he did pretty well. So, kind of my updates there. Let's get into the chat. So, yeah, that's that with Sam Darnold. Let's see what we got cooking here, guys. The first question I have is from Jeff Johnson. Who would you flex this week out of Joshua Palmer, Hollywood Brown, Cordero Patterson, or George Pickens? So if we look at our matchups, we've got Hollywood Brown going up against the Chargers secondary that we saw got carved up by Kansas City. I would not use that as a reference point. Kansas City's pretty much doing that to everybody. Joshua Palmer is going to be going up against the Cardinals secondary that Jimmy G carved up. Now, that is something to really look at. And, of course, we have Mike Williams down now, so we've got the upside. Cordero Patterson, I don't think his usage is impacted a ton by Kyle Pitts. Yes, he does get those touches, but Cordero Patterson's really not he's not lining up wide anymore. He's getting that ball out of the backfield. And then with George Pickens going up against the Colts, that's a very tough secondary, and he has been taking a backseat to Deontay Johnson. I'm going to go Joshua Palmer here early on in the week, Jeff. Because we know that Mike Williams should be out, judging by the re-aggravation of the high ankle sprain, seeming like it's pretty major. Wouldn't expect to see him in practice this week. I'm here in 2 to 3 weeks on a couple of reports from beat reporters within the Chargers system, publishing online. So I think I like Joshua Palmer. I don't hate Hollywood Brown either. Hollywood Brown going up against the Chargers. So just those two kind of going up against each other, actually, in that game, of course. I like those two a lot. Cordero Patterson, it's an okay matchup against the Commanders, who are now 6-5 and putting up a decent fight. The defensive front is getting healthier again, so I really do like Palmer and Hollywood. I think Palmer has been getting a lot of opportunity if we look here, Jeff. This NFL season is just blowing by, guys. We are already in Week 12. So after this week, we've got 6 more, so we're exactly 2/3 of the way through. I mean, many don't know this, but with the injuries, right, Joshua Palmer is the leading target getter, I guess you'd want to say, right? The leading target, or just he leads in target usage if you're looking here. He's gotten the most looks because of the health issues with Mike Williams, because of the health issues with Keenan Allen, who's going to have to play some catch-up. Gerald Everett. most snaps out of any of these guys. He's just been out on the field, and he's been capitalizing. 3 touchdowns, 496 yards. Joshua Palmer getting a healthy dosage over the course of the last 3 weeks. 10 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets. So that's something that really entices me. Just somebody who's going to get high usage, who is surrounded by others in a pass-heavy offense who are hurt. I'm a big fan of DeAndre Carter, especially against that Cardinals secondary and all the struggles that they've been having. So that's what I'm going to go with, Jeff. Kevin Valentine, what it do, baby? Pick 2 full PPR for flex spots. We got Brandon Cooks, Jeff Wilson Jr., Isaiah Pacheco, George Pickens, and Rachaad White. Rachaad White's a sneaky pickup this week if you haven't gotten him already. Been more efficient than Leonard Fournette as of late. Obviously, they're coming off that bye. Fournette ended up getting hurt. He'll have a full week of rest, but he's gotten about the same amount of snaps as Mr. Fournette, and he's been more efficient, averaging over 4 yards a carry, while Fournette is well below that 4.0 yards per carry mark. His efficiency's low. Yes, he's involved in the pass game, but one of the worst run offenses we've seen, so definitely a change that we are probably going to end up seeing. Actually, if you look in the bottom right of this, most added in waivers right now is Rachaad White. Everyone's looking at Greg Joseph as well, so we're really going after the kickers. But Rachaad White is somebody who I see taking over as the running back one, similar to Isaiah Pacheco, who took over for CEH recently. So picking 2 out of this for Kevin. We got Brandon Cooks, Jeff Wilson Jr., Isaiah Pacheco, George Pickens, Rachaad White. Let's see. Okay, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Let's look at our matchups first here. Appreciate you guys joining me on this Tuesday night. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're getting value out of this content. If you want your questions answered, it's simple, guys. Just pop them right in the chat. I will be thorough, but I will be efficient. So I'll make sure I get to all of you as I'm making my way down the comment section already. So White, Wilson Jr., and Pacheco. There we go, yards per carry allowed. We'll start out by looking at the matchup. And remember, folks, the 3 aspects we want to look at with each player is going to be availability, opportunity, and productivity. All these guys are healthy right now. All these guys are getting touches for the most part. Pacheco recently slotting into that running back 1 spot. We've got the question marks around Rachaad White, but it looks like he's the one who deserves it and is going to get it. It's still a team that passes more than almost anybody in the league in the Bucs. But let's just look at these matchups. Wilson Jr. going up against the Texans. And if we think game script, I'm going to put my money on the Dolphins taking out the Texans pretty handily. I'd say one of the best teams in the NFL against one of the worst teams. Houston in what's probably going to be a run-heavy game script in the second half for the Dolphins. They do throw a lot, but they're not like the Bills or the Chiefs where they throw when they're up 15 or 16 or 18 or 21 or 24 or 30. They're going to start to run the ball. They want to get out of there. They want to play smart. They want to chew the clock. Houston allows 5.1 yards to carry. That's something I would definitely keep my eye on. We still have Mostert in that backfield, so we've got to think about that. And up against the Browns is going to be Rachaad White. Cleveland right there above them at 4.8 yards a carry allowed. It's Jeff Wilson Jr. and then Isaiah Pacheco. Let's see here. Going up against that Rams front. Rams, one of the best run defenses in the league. Pacheco obviously being used more. He was the first 100-yard rusher for the Chiefs last week since like the middle of 2021. It was over a year. So Pacheco definitely doing some efficient things out of the backfield. Nonetheless, he does have the toughest matchup. Out of those 3 running backs, I think I like Rachaad White the most. It is a pass-heavy offense, but he's going up against a pretty weak defense. Wilson Jr. is definitely in a split-back scenario, and actually, if we look at the Bucs, it still says it's Fournette, but he is questionable going into this week, as is Russell Gage. Tuesday, it's really hard to tell. So even after that bye week, Fournette's still questionable. That tells me if we continue to see that going into the weekend, even if Fournette does play, he'll get limited reps. So I think Rachaad White's in a pretty good spot. So let's go Rachaad White, and then between Pickens, Cooks, Wilson Jr., who's got a really nice matchup. Kevin, I'm assuming this is PPR. I'm not seeing otherwise. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, so Pickens going up against one of the toughest secondaries in the league. Obviously, he's working with a rookie quarterback who's still gaining his bearings, but looks better. Kenny Pickett had his best game yet. I will say that. It's going to be going up against the Indianapolis Colts, allowing a shade under 195 yards through the air on the year. If we look at Miami going up against Houston, my concern really isn't the defense, and they have shored up the secondary. 240 yards a game is still a more optimal matchup than what we have going on the ladder with Pickens. My issue is going to be target usage as well. If we go target usage, Nico Collins is starting to take over, folks. It's subtle, but it's there. 17 targets in the last two contests to Brandon Cooks' 13. He's got a slightly better catch rate. I mean, we're really splitting hairs there, right? Way more yards per reception. Nearly as many yards as Cooks on 11 less receptions. We're talking a shade over 15 yards per reception. A more explosive play guy, and they're really trying to get this passing offense going in Houston. It's got to be more than just Dameon Pierce. They can't drive him into the ground, although they sure were trying until about a week ago where they just gave him the ball 12 times. Usually he's in the neighborhood of 20 to 25, and why wouldn't he be, right? The efficiencies here. So I think Collins is actually going to get more of an emphasis. I could see Pickens with the increased usage as of late. It's pretty much just him, Johnson, and Freiermuth, obviously with Claypool out. I'm going to go Pickens and Rachaad White, or Wilson Jr. with Rachaad White. Pacheco's got a really tough matchup, and Cooks is in a reduced role right now. I think he is slowly handing the baton off as the wide receiver one, and this team still loves to use Dameon Pierce a ton, both on the ground and through the air. So Wilson Jr. and Rachaad White, or Pickens and Rachaad White, are going to be who I'm rolling with, picking two for your full PPR flex spots, Kevin. Also, would you drop Mariota for Brady and put my last $12 on its other QB is Deshaun? Had to drop Kyler a few weeks ago due to Deshaun being my 14th round keeper next year and can only roster two QBs. Wouldn't go with Rashawn. I'm combining names here. My apologies, Kevin. Would not go with Deshaun. Didn't look the best in preseason. And we have to talk about, I'm not going to base things off preseason alone. We have not seen Deshaun Watson play in nearly 2 years. That's kind of a scary sight when you consider everything, how much has changed in football. And now we're going to expect him to not only do well, but do well in his first couple weeks. The pressure's on him, right? I don't care what the matchup is. I don't care that he comes back to play up against the Texans team. It actually has a pretty decent defense. It's the one good thing about him, along with, Dameon Pierce as well. So Deshaun, are we really going to sit here and say, yes, he's going to slot into this offense that doesn't look good already, that is built on the run? He's going to get used a ton, even though they have guys like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt who they could just plug the ball to. For a guy who hasn't played football in a couple years, it's also another approach Kevin Stefanski could take. I don't think we can really sit here and honestly have confidence that Deshaun Watson is A, going to come in and get high usage after not playing football for 2 years, and B, shake off the rust. Because if he has rust for a couple weeks, your season's done. That's it. He doesn't have time to warm up in the sphere of fantasy football. Your playoffs are starting in a couple weeks. That cannot be his warm-up time unless you are 11-0 right now, or 10-1, or 9-2. And even then, you're trying to face the lower-end opponent, right? You want to host, per se. So I'm not going to go with Deshaun. Would you drop Mariota for Brady? We want to look at the remaining matchups. So here's what we'll do. We'll cross-reference their schedule and the Bucs' remaining schedule with past defenses. Okay. So Bucs go toe-to-toe with the Browns. Yeah, Browns, middle of the pack. This is just pass yards per game. There's many other metrics too. We can look at passing touchdowns. We can look at points allowed to fantasy quarterbacks. That is already available on the ESPN app. So there's that as well. Yeah, Saints up there allowing a $1.95. We already know what the 49ers can do. Bengals. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Arizona's the first weak pass defense they're playing against. We'll go back against Carolina, middle of the pack. Then the Falcons. Okay. Marcus Mariota's remaining schedule. He goes up against Washington. Bottom 12. The Steelers. Worst in the league. The Saints. Top 10. The Ravens. Bottom 10. Falcons. Okay. Then we'll go up against the Cardinals and then the Buccaneers. Okay. So it's a little closer than I thought. This is for Kevin. A little closer than I thought. Mariota has a much easier upcoming schedule in comparison to Brady, but it is Tom Brady. He has been warming up, and he also has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin at his disposal. Okay, Kate Otten as well has been doing well. Rashad White hasn't gotten a whole lot of action in the passing game, so I'm not sure how involved he will be, but you also have a team. This is why I'm still going to say Brady for you. Yes, he does have the tougher matchups, but he has better weapons in my opinion. Teams that pass the ball the most are going to be on the bottom. Tampa Bay throws the ball more than anybody else at 65.3%. Go all the way on the other end of things. And the team that passes the ball the second least amount to only Chicago, right? That's going to change with Justin Fields being out. I don't think Trevor Siemian's going to tuck and run 15 times a game. Atlanta passes the ball the 31st most times. So we have a scheme that's not as pass heavy. Mariota's not tucking and running 10 times a game. It's more in the neighborhood of 4 or 5. Brady's got better weapons. Slightly harder schedule for Brady. I think the Hall of Famer can handle it. So I'm gonna go Mariota for Brady. I know he looks a little better on paper right now, does Mariota. I think Brady ends up picking it up. That team is 5-5 and leading their division right now, as sad as that is, as sad as the NFC South is. So let's go with that. And let's stay away from Deshaun. We cannot rely on somebody to get high volume and perform at a high level after not playing football for 2 years, Kevin. Jeff Johnson. Thoughts on Lamar going forward? Think he's fine. You know, the weapons are cycling in and out. If we look at Lamar's game log, I already know what you're kind of bringing up here. Obviously, this prove-it year. Lamar trying to get extended. Everyone's kind of scared after this performance against Carolina. 209 through the air. Not a big fan of this rushing efficiency. 2.8 yards a carry. It did get bailed out by the touchdown there, but not even, because he did not throw for a touchdown through the air. Only the second time that's happened this year. First time being in that very run-heavy scheme against Cleveland, where Lamar ran the ball more times than he completed a pass. So Carolina, really what we want to do with Lamar is look at his upcoming schedule as well. Look, Lamar has been a dual threat. He will be a dual threat. And anytime you have a dual threat, you're going to get some extra production in fantasy. Obviously, instead of getting the 0.04 points per yard through the air, he's getting 0.1 on the ground. Free 8 points, free 9 points, free 4, free 6, free 7. You're just not getting this from anybody else outside of Justin Fields and maybe Jalen Hurts and a healthy Kyler Murray. My thoughts on Lamar are I'm not too worried unless I see an extremely tough schedule in front of him, which I do not for the most part. You need a team with a strong front seven that can also shore up on the back end and ensure that Lamar is not going to be able to thrive and throw down the field. Granted, he's got a lot of damaged weapons right now. Mark Andrews is back, though. If we look at Lamar's upcoming schedule, Jaguars, a very gettable secondary. The Ravens are going to, the Broncos are going to be very tough. But then he goes up against the Steelers. That Browns team that has a pretty strong front seven. The Falcons, he can throw all over. The Steelers, he can throw all over. The Bengals will be pretty tough. So up and down, but nonetheless, Jeff, there's not many quarterbacks I'm going to go out and get over Lamar, especially with his sheer production on the ground. I mean, you looked at it right now. He's giving you a free 6-7 points on the ground. So even if he only throws for 200 yards and 1 touchdown, which is, in most formats, it's going to be 8 points for the 200 yards, 4 for the touchdown, that's 12, and he gets you 60 yards on the ground. There you are, 18 points on a bad day. A day that would usually get other quarterbacks 12. Lamar just has the extra aspect to him. It's still built into that offense. There's a lack of weapons due to the revolving door of injuries in the receiving core in Baltimore that I like Lamar's situation way too much, just because the offense is so geared around him, Jeff. I understand the concern following that poor performance against Carolina right here. Nonetheless, I don't think it's enough to cut ties or try and trade away. Okay. My take on that. Brian, CMC is my automatic running back 2, but this CMC is my automatic running back 1, but this running back 2 situation is just a rotating door of characters. We have James Conner, Jamal Williams, and Raheem Mostert. I think you helped me before, but does Williams solidify as a running back 2? Okay, Brian, I mean, this is just a hanging curveball down the middle. I've got a tab for you, Brian, okay? This is something I was actually waiting to bring up, and you just reminded me of it. Just did a short on this as well, so check that out on the channel. Jamal Williams leads in 2 very important stats that fantasy owners need to look at. The obvious one, touchdowns. He has 12 touchdowns on the ground. This says 11. He has 12. You know what he also has? What's this number right here? 35. It's him and Joe Mixon. He has the most red zone touches of anybody in the entire league. Inside the 20, Jamal Williams is getting the ball. Look at this. 2, 3, 5, 6, 3 times. He got the ball 3 times inside the 20 in week 11. Anybody want to guess how many touchdowns he had in week 11? 3. And some of these are free runs that are being broken for 20, 30, 40. This is not a rare occurrence. He's getting more than 3. He's got 7 here. 3, 4, 3, 5, 6, 3. In all but 2 weeks that Jamal Williams has played, he's getting at least 3 red zone touches, which is far more than the average of most. The average is going to be down here in the lower 2s. And that is why you're seeing that production from Jamal Williams. And obviously, he is taking over that role from DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has been healthy for a while now. If we look at the short answer here, Brian, is Jamal Williams is your running back 2. This is a team that's not losing as often anymore. They've won back-to-back games. They won 3 games in a row, the Lions have. They are now 4-6. If we look at Jamal Williams and the snap count percentage, it's him at 48%. It's Justin Jackson at 37%. It's DeAndre Swift at 31%. It was a pass-heavy offense, but nonetheless, Jamal Williams is getting more red zone touches than anybody in the NFL not named Joe Mixon, and that's mainly because he got fed in week 9, that monster week that we saw before. That's it. And as a result, he has the most touchdowns. He is consistently being fed. It wasn't just one good week. We saw 3 touchdowns last week. We've seen multiple multi-touchdown games this year now. Jamal Williams is the answer until we see otherwise, Brian. He's getting the attention we need him to. We talk about guys being touchdown reliant. Jamal Williams is not touchdown reliant alone. He's averaging over 4 yards a carry. He's efficient. But most importantly, he's not splitting a role with somebody like Raheem Mostert is, which you listed in there, Brian. And he's also not inefficient as crap, which James Conner is. If we look up James Conner, appreciate all of you hopping on the stream on this Tuesday night. I hope I'm able to help you out with your fantasy football situation heading into Week 12, into this slate of Thanksgiving games. We've got 3 coming up on Thursday. So if you have any pressing questions about that, I will be streaming tomorrow. I will be talking about 5 to 6 waiver wire ads that we need to focus on. But Brian, back to you. James Conner, I hate for this reason. He is touchdown reliant. 3.7 yards a carry. I know it seems like we are splitting hairs here. Don't get me wrong. DeAndre Swift is crazy efficient. I'll take 4.2 from Mr. Jamal Williams. I'll take the 6th most rushing attempts in the league. So not only is he just getting the ball in the red zone, he's getting the ball in general. And he's not very involved in the passing game, but guess what? He doesn't have to be. Makes him very attractive in standard, Makes him very attractive in half-point PPR, and he is still very attractive in standard PPR because this man leads the league in red zone touches. That's a stat we have to pay more attention to. Look at these other guys. Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Devin Singletary, Kenneth Walker III. That's another one. Devin Singletary getting those red zone touches, heavily skewed by week 11, which he had a good weekend. It's all about getting those opportunities inside the 20. Otherwise, it's Kenneth Walker III, Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce. Doesn't Jamal Williams seem like an outlier? People are still waiting for this to be DeAndre Swift's backfield. It's not, and this is why. Jamal Williams is getting all of these red zone touches. Let's filter it, okay? Let's just go to Detroit. We have to keep in mind DeAndre Swift has not played in every game, so let's just go average per game. Jamal Williams is getting the ball in the red zone twice as often as DeAndre Swift. This is his team until we are told otherwise. Brian, your running back 2 is Jamal Williams. He has a lot more value than people think. Isaac LaChance, welcome to the stream, my guy. Need to start 2 of these guys, A.J. Brown, Scary Terry, Travis Etienne, and Dalvin Cook, at least 1 wide receiver. Got it. Top into week 12. My apologies. We're just wrapping up week 11, so I need a couple refreshers on who's playing who. Dalvin Cook, I know, is going up against a very tough defense in the New England Patriots. Etienne going against the Ravens. A.J. Brown going against the Packers secondary, which is actually pretty tough. Scary Terry going against the Falcons. Scary Terry against the Falcons with the tear he has been on is very appealing to me. A.J. Brown against the Packers scares me for 2 reasons. One, it is a run-heavy offense. If we look at the Eagles, I'll prove it to you. You guys see, I'm just going back and forth between what I believe are relevant stats. Availability, opportunity, and, of course, productivity. Well, availability is all about being healthy, but then the opportunity, are these guys getting the ball enough? Well, that's determined with stats like this. How often are they running the ball? How often are they passing the ball? Pertaining to A.J. Brown, Philadelphia runs the ball more than all teams but 4. The Giants, the Titans, the Falcons, and the Bears, meaning they're not passing it a whole lot. It's not a team where they use A.J. Brown on end-arounds like Deebo Samuel's used in San Francisco. So I don't like A.J. Brown's scenario. He's going up against a really tough pass defense in the Packers. We also want to look at opposition on top of those things. Availability, opportunity, productivity, and then, of course, the strength of the opposition. A.J. Brown's got most of those things, and then the strength of the opposition, not the best. Okay. Opportunity is not going to be there either all the time because it's going to be one prominent wide receiver. It's been Devontae Smith the last couple of weeks. And then, well, because they run the ball so much, not much else. So A.J. Brown, no. Scary Terry. He's been thriving. He's been doing well. Remember, Curtis Samuel was the guy for 2 to 3 weeks. That's not the case anymore. I'm going to go Scary Terry as the 1 wide receiver we take. Taylor Heineke is getting him the ball. And then Dalvin Cook or Travis Etienne. Dalvin Cook going up against the toughest defense in the league. The Patriots give up the 32nd most or the least amount of fantasy points to running backs. And then Mr. Etienne goes up against the Ravens. Coming off of a week of rest, so we've got fresh legs while Dalvin Cook is playing on 4 days rest. Better matchup. Give me Etienne and give me Scary Terry, Isaac. PPR. Yep. Kevin says, appreciate you and your help. No problem, my man. Half PPR, 12-man. I'm 5-6. Luca, let's get you on the right track here. We got Kirk Cousins, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker III, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Dallas Goedert, King Henry, Cortland Sutton. Okay. Mr. Greg Dulcich, Brian Robinson, Allen Robinson, Darius Slayton, and Danny Dimes. Am I done? I don't think you're done. I don't think you need Brian Robinson anymore because Antonio Gibson's been thriving in the pass game and he's been getting way more action on the ground as well, and he's been more efficient than Brian Robinson. If anything, go get Gibson, but he's probably taken. Robinson's in a good spot. Allen Robinson is with Cooper Kupp down. Carr, Cousins, or Danny Dimes this week. Something about Kirk Cousins in prime time bugs me, obviously. Isaac says, thanks, man. You are a saint. Isaac, I live stream 2 to 3 times a week, and I post YouTube shorts with plenty of informative content, research-based content on the fantasy football world. So make sure you like and subscribe, my man, and I'll give you plenty of updates as I do the other 260 people here subscribing so far, who I am thankful for. So, Luca, we're choosing between Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Danny Dimes. It's a run-heavy offense, obviously. We just went over that before. In New York, they're going up against an extremely tough Dallas Cowboys front seven. I expect Danny Dimes to get pressured a ton. We already saw that happen to Kirk Cousins last week. I don't like Danny Dimes at all. It's a run-heavy offense, and it's an extremely tough matchup. You've got Micah Parsons, you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, you've got Trayvon Diggs out there lurking in the secondary. It's probably going to be another lean on Saquon Barkley game, and if they can't lean on him, Danny Dimes is going to drop back. He's somebody with one of the worst, or with some of the worst pocket awareness I have seen. That's not going to bode too well for a Dallas team that can bring 4 and make it look like a blitz every single time. And then in terms of your lineup, Luca, Brian Robinson, I don't think it needs to be there. I don't think we need 2 tight ends if we're 5-6 and we want to make a push and win two or our next 3 games. Our next 2 or our next 3 games. Let's get rid of Dulcich. God, or Goddard is actually on the IR, so we're going to have to get rid of him probably and go after a wide receiver who's going to get more points. Because we don't want to start tight ends and flexes if we can get a higher skill player. We could pair Slayton up with Robinson and maybe get a decent piece. So we're going to be between Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. Raiders going up against the Seahawks, and Kirk going up against the Patriots secondary. That's been really tough. We saw what they did to the Jets. The Jets look horrible. Zach Wilson not taking accountability, not saying he let his defense down, refusing to say it. That was interesting. I am going to go with... Let's go Derek Carr against the Seahawks. The secondary is not great. They're not horrible if we look at pass yards allowed. I know it's middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points allowed. Let's just look at a greater picture and see the volume situation. Seattle, 11th, 12th worst in the league, giving up about 230 through the air. We just need a touchdown or 2, and that's a decent day for Mr. Carr. It is going to be a throw-heavy offense in the Raiders because game script-wise, look, they've been losing a lot of games. They're not blowing anybody out. They beat the Broncos for 2 out of their 3 wins, and the Broncos country's not riding. They're sinking. They're crashing. They're burning. So we've got a throw-heavy scheme in the Raiders, right, Luca? Because they lose a lot, I don't see a situation where they feed Josh Jacobs 40 times because they're up by 40, because that's just not going to happen this year with the play calling of Josh McDaniels and many other factors. I'm going to go Derek Carr against that Seattle secondary because Danny Dimes is going to get pressured and he's in a run-heavy scheme. And Kirk Cousins is playing in prime time, and he's also going up against an extremely tough New England secondary. Let's go Derek Carr. Corey says, my man Corey. We got another Corey in the chat. He's got an E in his name, but that is close enough. Welcome to the chat, Corey. Brian, I have Pickens on my bench, just iffy on him. Seems to boom or bust. You know, if Pickens is on your bench and you're just looking for a flex, you could go for a Rachaad White. You could go for an Isaiah Pacheco. Brian, depending on what your record is in the waiver wire order, you might be able to go and grab Isaiah Pacheco still. Last I checked, he was owned in about 40-something% of leagues. He's going to have a tough matchup this week. Nonetheless, if you're worried about, consistency, you can also go out and get like a DeAndre Carter, Brian. DeAndre Carter on the Chargers has been getting plenty of usage, and it's pretty much him, Joshua Palmer, and a Keenan Allen that just came back from injury. And Gerald Everett maybe. But Mike Williams went down. It's a throw-heavy offense in the Chargers. So maybe some substitutes. We've got DeAndre Carter. We've got maybe Rachaad White or Isaiah Pacheco if we're just looking for a flex. But if we're looking strictly wide receiver, DeAndre Carter comes to mind. Brian, I will be doing this is for all of you, I will be doing a waiver wire pickups live stream going into week 12 tomorrow night. Probably about, I can't really pin a time on it yet, but probably around like 6, 7, or 8 o'clock. I'll go for a couple hours. And then any questions you have about people you should pick up, who you should start, who you should sit, as per usual, as I'm doing right now, because this was dedicated to injuries and roster updates, I answer all of your questions at the end. So, Brian, I'll be doing a waiver wire pickup live stream tomorrow for week 12, so keep that in mind as well. But DeAndre Carter, Isaiah Pacheco, Rachaad White, those are 3 names that come to mind at the flex position. Corey says, Tino told me about you, LOL, new here, how you doing? I'm doing good, Corey. If you like the content that you're seeing so far, you've probably been chilling in chat for a while, as you can tell. I'm very thorough in terms of going through all these comments. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're getting value out of it. If you've got any questions about your fantasy team, man, make sure you pop them in here. Isaac says, thanks, man, you are a saint. No, you are a saint for dropping in the chat, man. Thomas says, love the stream. I appreciate it, Thomas. Looking for some advice. Let's do it. I am in a 12-man PPR with Keenan Allen, CMC, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Hopkins. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Mark Andrews and Joe Mixon with Cortland Sutton, Deontay Foreman, Keenan. Got 2 Allens on the bench. Thoughts and maybe any trade Rex Thomas. 12-man, that's a pretty solid team. Josh Allen, I'm sorry, and then Keenan Allen on the bench. Josh Allen, CMC, Jonathan Taylor, who's turning the corner. CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Hopkins, Mark Andrews, Joe Mixon. I don't think we need to trade many people, man. If you want to do a home run or if you want to have a home run hit and go after another really good wide receiver, I could see you bunching up Keenan Allen after his recent performance with Cortland Sutton. Josh Allen, got it. Keenan Allen with Cortland Sutton and maybe going after a top 10 guy. I think Godwin would be shooting a little bit too low. Maybe we go after... You've got Hopkins. I don't know if Keenan and Sutton would be enough for Justin Jefferson. I definitely don't think it would be. I don't think we need to do much, man. You've got a really deep lineup, and you have some strength in that starting lineup with Josh Allen, CMC, CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, we're naming top 10 people here. Mark Andrews when healthy. Joe Mixon with the volume. We talked about how he is tied with Jamal Williams in terms of red zone touches, so... I like the team a lot, Thomas. If you really want to go for a home run hitter, the depth pieces I would combine are like a Keenan Allen and a Cortland Sutton. Maybe you go after somebody more consistent at the Chris Godwin level, but we want to level up a little bit from that. Otherwise, man, I really like the team a lot. Like, seriously, I think you're good where you are, Thomas. I wouldn't be trading much because anything above Keenan and Sutton and Foreman, who just came off a really bad week, and remember, we want to sell high, not low. And you're digging into a very talented, very stacked lineup, Thomas. So I would stick with it. I hope you're loving the stream, and if you're getting benefits out of all the information I'm providing, make sure you like and subscribe, man. Cadillac, start 3, 2 running backs, 1 flex. Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, Jeff Wilson, and Deebo Samuel. Derrick Henry, PPR or not, with the volume he's been getting, I think he's a must-start on pretty much a weekly basis again. He's up there getting those 20 touches a game, sometimes more than that. Going up against the Bengals is going to be tough, but I do like it a lot. So we're pretty much picking between Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, and Jeff Wilson. James Conner, I already had my rant on him and how inefficient he has been as of late. Going up against the Chargers defense, maybe he'll have a bit of a better day, but James Conner just not doing phenomenal, to say the very least. There's been a heavy reliance on Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. Marquise Brown will be back. Rondale Moore's in there. I think it's going to be a much more pass-heavy offense. They run a lot of plays. But I'm going to go Derrick Henry. Give me Ramondre Stevenson against the Vikings run defense that just let Mr. Tony Pollard run all over them. Yes, they were going against an amazing offensive line that gives Dak one of the cleanest pockets I've ever seen. Give me Derrick Henry. Give me Ramondre Stevenson. Jeff Wilson has a split role with Raheem Mostert, so I'm not in love with that. Texans do have a weak run defense, but we can't rely on that. So give me, in order, I like Henry, then Stevenson, then Wilson, then Conner. Okay? And then we're going to pick a flex. So Henry, Stevenson. I am picking between Deebo and Wilson, likely. I really don't like Conner's production. He needs touchdowns. He is so touchdown reliant. 3.7 yards carry is not going to get it done. And he's not as involved in the passing game as we need him to be. Against the Saints. New Orleans. Only allowing a $195 through the air. We'll get Deebo running it every once in a while. He had that 37-yard rush in prime time that probably helped some of your leagues. Let's go Derrick Henry. Let's go Ramondre Stevenson. And let's go Deebo Samuel, Cadillac. Hope that helps. Jelly of the Month, wide receiver 3, PPR play. Myers, or wait to see if Marquise Brown plays. Pivot is Josh Palmer. Not sure on Mike Williams. Jelly, it looks like Mike Williams with that re-aggravated high ankle sprain, from what I'm seeing, is going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have to keep an eye on that. It's only Tuesday. Don't think Mike Williams is playing. And Josh Palmer, with how he has been performing, he actually is leading the Chargers in target usage because Keenan Allen's been out for a prolonged period of time. Because Mike Williams has been out. He's been spotty. Gerald Everett's been out. So I like that a lot, Jelly of the Month. I like Marquise Brown. I love Josh Palmer. If Marquise Brown plays, let's take him over Myers. Otherwise, Josh Palmer could probably go over either of those guys. If we're being honest with ourselves here, against that Cardinals secondary that just got torched by Jimmy G, I'm liking Josh Palmer or Marquise Brown. I'm liking Josh Palmer regardless. LBR, yo, what's up? Just traded Josh Jacobs and Devontae Smith for Mike Evans and Dameon Pierce. Thoughts? Josh Jacobs is a running back who's been very productive this year, but anytime you have a running back on a losing squad, we're even seeing it with the Texans, it doesn't make sense to overuse them because you're going to have to go pass heavy in the second half. That's just how the game script works, LBR. Devontae Smith is the wide receiver 2, although he's kind of been getting those wide receiver 1 reps with A.J. Brown fighting injury the last couple of weeks on a run-heavy offense. So Josh Jacobs out, let's go Josh Jacobs out, Dameon Pierce in. Dameon Pierce is the exception. Like I said, like the Texans just love to use him. They gave him a little bit of a rest this last week, so hopefully they start to use him a little more. Honestly, you traded a running back on a team that is losing a lot of games for a running back on a team that loses a lot of games. But Dameon Pierce will be getting more touches, I believe, because they've just been so reliant on him, depending on how Nico Hollins does. Devontae Smith and Mike Evans. I mean, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have been 1A, 1B in terms of targets. If we look at this is a situation that I love to see, and it's on a team that passes the ball more than anybody, so that's why it works. 28 targets in the last 3 games for Mike Evans. 29 targets in the last 3 games for Chris Godwin. More touchdowns for Mike Evans. He's that red zone guy. So I like it, LBR. I think Dameon Pierce and Josh Jacobs are one in the same, but Pierce was getting more usage. I think you get an upgrade in Mike Evans because you have the wide receiver 1A/B on the most throw-heavy team in the league. They throw the ball more than anybody else. And you traded away the wide receiver 2 on one of the most run-heavy teams in the league. You definitely upgraded, LBR. I love it. Love the move. Super Squash, should I trade Monty and a sub for someone better than Monty? If so, who? Super Squash, the 2 people who were taking touches away from David Montgomery in the most run-heavy offense in the league were Justin Fields and Khalil Herbert. They are both going to be on the IR now. I like David Montgomery a lot. I really do. Regardless of whether the Bears are winning a ton, not so much. They have a backup quarterback in there. They're already the most run-heavy team in the league, and it's down to David Montgomery and Treston Ebner. And Treston Ebner has not been getting a ton of touches. He hasn't been too productive. I say you hold on to Monty. I really do. Unless you want to go for a home run and let Monty develop in the next week or 2 right ahead of the playoffs, depending on when your trade deadline is. Maybe we go and swing for a Dalvin Cook, but I really think David Montgomery is going to give you the production because he is available. He's getting the opportunity, and he will be productive. We saw how productive he was before. Especially if he can get a couple more passes. A couple checkdowns from Trevor Siemian. I like it a lot. LBR, should I trade Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers, and Aaron Jones for CD and Najee Harris? Najee's been efficient the last couple of days. Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers, Ramondre and Damian Harris is getting healthier. And then Aaron Jones, not the best offense, but Aaron Jones has been doing well. For CeeDee Lamb and Najee Harris, I think that's a home run there. You get the extra roster spot, and you can go stream somebody who's probably going to produce at the same amount of Jacoby Myers. So pretty much you're doing Tyler Lockett for CD, Aaron Jones for Najee, and then you're throwing Jacoby in there. I like it, LBR. Jelly of the month. Thanks. Rank these defensive special teams. Okay, week 12. Chiefs, Dolphins, Eagles. Chiefs allow a ton through the air. The Dolphins are getting better at not doing that. Getting healthier in the secondary. The Dolphins do go up against the Texans offense that is absolutely horrible. Chiefs face the Rams. The Rams still have some weapons now, Allen Robinson, Tyler Higbee, and that's about it. So another horrible offense. And the Eagles going up against the Packers, who are kind of finding their footing on offense, but not really. Chiefs run defense. Let's see how it's going. For those of you who are just joining, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. We're doing some homework for you ahead of week 12, the Thanksgiving week. Drop some of your Thanksgiving traditions in the comment section as well. I'm kind of curious. Any like weird foods? Are we cool with mac and cheese at the Thanksgiving table? I keep seeing that come up, but I'm kind of neutral on it. I don't know. Don't hate me. Don't unsubscribe if you disagree with that. Let's see here. Trade Stevenson, Debo, and Barkley for Lockett. Oh, sorry. Ranking these defenses real quick. Let's go. Okay, I see what I'm looking at here. So, mainly was looking at the Chiefs to see how many yards per carry they were allowing. Their top 13, just 4.4 yards. I think they can contain Pierce. I don't think he'll have an amazing day. Let's go. Stuck between these two, man. I'm sorry, it's Dolphins yards per carry I should be looking at. Just not much different. 4.6. Let's go Dolphins. Dolphins defense. Eagles defense. Chiefs defense. Chiefs going up against the Rams. I think they have the most holes in their secondary. Matt Stafford isn't having an electric year by any means. Dolphins going up against one of the worst offenses in the league in the Texans, who are still pretty run heavy for a team that loses a lot. Not a real interest in losing games. They're probably, or in winning games, they are probably going for that number 1 overall pick. So I like the Dolphins, and then the Eagles, and then the Chiefs. Eagles, I think, can lock up that Packers team pretty well. It's still Aaron Rodgers. It's still Christian Watson with 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games. And the Chiefs' defense has a lot of holes in it. I think the Rams can scratch across 17 to 20 points. So Dolphins, Eagles, Chiefs. Cadillac trade Stevenson, Debo, and A-Rob for Barkley and Lockett. I think you should get more than that. I know Barkley is worth a lot. I think you could get Barkley for Stevenson and Debo. So then we're talking about A-Rob and Lockett. I don't think that's pretty fair. So other wide receivers are D-Hop, Sun God, Garrett Wilson, and Hollywood. Other wide receivers that you can get. I mean, we could throw Hollywood in there. We could just do Stevenson and Debo for Barkley and Hollywood because Hollywood's coming off the injury and try and go from there, Cadillac. But I think you're giving up a bit much for Barkley and Lockett. Especially with that increased role that A-Rob is probably going to have. Super Squash. Also, should I try and upgrade to a better wide receiver than Amari Cooper? Amari Cooper's getting a lot of usage right now. It's been him and Donovan Peoples-Jones. With Deshaun Watson coming in, we've got a lot of unknowns, but I think with that team being 3-7 in the Browns, they're going to have a throw-heavy scheme down at the stretch. That's how Donovan Peoples-Jones got the garbage touchdown in Week 11, and that's just the game script. Or that's the game script that they're going to cover because they've got to be working from behind so often. I'm cool with Amari Cooper. He's top 10 right now. He is wide receiver 10 in standard PPR for a reason. High usage, high productivity, and he's been available. 3 aspects we talk about, folks. Availability, are they healthy? Opportunity, are they getting the chances? Productivity, what are they doing with those chances? Amari Cooper checks off all 3 of those boxes. And he's got a great game script because this team has to go throw heavy in the second half since the Browns lose a lot of football games. John Doe says, haven't been on in a while due to work, but always listen to you on the ride to work, Corey. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. What's the best answer for being in a league with players who don't trade? I want to trade James Conner and George Pickens for Aaron Jones, but this guy who's 2-8 is being too stubborn. John, is this a rollover league? I mean, with his picks or something? I don't know. John, I did this with a guy before and almost got it. It was Jamal Williams, and I was going to give up. I wanted Jamal Williams, and I was going to give up Donovan Peoples-Jones and Jacoby Myers. Almost got him. Because I said, what do you need? And he said, I need wide receiver depth. I said, okay. Here's what I got. I would be interested in Jamal Williams. I think he's got an uptick in production. Went back and forth on it. John, the best way to approach a trade in general is asking somebody, are there any needs that you have at this point in time? That indicates you're willing to make a deal, but it doesn't come across as, I would like this shiny piece. What do I have to fork over to get him? Ask what you can do for them. Then come in with your pitch and say, here's where I'm willing to meet you. I'm interested in Aaron Jones. James Conner's pretty inefficient, and George Pickens hasn't had the most usage as of late, and he is working with a young quarterback in Kenny Pickett. You're probably going to have to do James Conner and a better wide receiver than George Pickens. Not a ton, but probably because Aaron Jones is that offense right now. He just is. He's very efficient. He's involved in the passing game. You're probably going to have to upgrade on George Pickens there. That's what I would say. LBR, who do you think I could get for Zeke? Because he's the running back 2 now and Pollard is taken over, we are probably talking a parallel for Zeke. It's not at that point yet, but maybe an Antonio Gibson, which sounds like a huge downgrade, but he is heavily involved in the passing game. If you guys are enjoying this content, you got to like and subscribe. I'm live streaming 2 to 3 times a week. I'm giving you guys YouTube shorts every single day to keep you informed going into week 12 and help you get these key wins down the stretch, whether you're on a playoff push, you're trying to go undefeated, you're trying to grab that 1 or 2 seed and play against the weaker opponents, you're just trying to get in, whatever it is. I'm going to put all the information I possibly can in front of you to help you going into week 12. So make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe. Road to 300. Let's get it. Trying to help as many of you out as possible. Antonio Gibson has been really getting a lot of usage. That's somebody I would look at in terms of upside. Taylor Heineke loves him, not just on the ground, but through the air. We've got 37 receptions for 284 yards, 2 touchdowns. We're talking a few receptions a game. I'm probably going for an Antonio Gibson level guy for Zeke, LBR. Anime says, hi, I'm at work. I got St. Brown, Godwin, Lamb, and Lockett. Williams, who should I bench? I want to flex. Oh, ignore that last part. Okay. St. Brown. Appreciate you talking to me while you're on work. On your shift. Getting the grind in. St. Brown against the secondary of the Bills. Not the biggest fan of that. Godwin against the Browns should be fine. Lamb against the secondary of... Just had it up. Giants should be fine. Lockett, Williams. I'm going to go St. Brown against the Bills. I think that should be pretty tough, even with the game script. Lions, Bills. Actually should be a better game than I think most people are anticipating. 9.5 point favorites are the Bills. I'm going to go St. Brown right now, anime, but we got to keep an eye on injuries around the team. On all these teams, different updates and matchups and stuff like that. But right now, I'm thinking St. Brown going into that Thursday. LBR, 2 words. James Conner. Yeah, you could get James Conner. He gets high usage. He just doesn't produce, but he is touchdown reliant. Probably a James Conner or an Antonio Gibson for LBR. Aaron Jones for T. Higgins straight up. Jamar's coming back. I'd be careful there. I would say no. Michael Bernardo, welcome to the chat, man. Would you do Amari Cooper and Pacheco for Jalen Waddle? You're going for Waddle. I like it a lot. Amari Cooper's wide receiver 10. If Pacheco, as long as you have good depth in the running back room, because Pacheco's the running back 1 now. Yes, it's a pass-heavy offense, but he was the first Chiefs running back to run for over 100 yards in over a year and a half. So he's productive. So as long as you have a strong running back room on your fantasy team, Michael, I say we go with it. Jelly of the month, we have a big white elephant game. Mac and cheese is good, but mom stuffing is way better. Okay, that's fair. Mac and cheese is good, but mom stuffing. I feel like it's so hard to screw up stuffing. Even the stovetop stuff. Just, oh. So I hope all of you enjoy your Thanksgiving like dinner, or if it's like an early lunch during those beginning games. Nothing better than eating Thanksgiving food and hopefully watching your fantasy football team unfold victoriously right in front of you. So I will put that out there. Cadillac says, sorry, those are my other wide receivers. Okay, those are my other wide receivers. You have D-Hop, Sun God, Garrett Wilson, Hollywood, trade Stevenson, and Debo. Okay, got it. I'd try and get somebody on top of Lockett or get them to throw somebody in who is, like, not as good as A-Rob, but Stevenson, Debo, and A-Rob for Barkley and Lockett. I just feel like you could get a little more than Lockett, but Barkley... It's a run-heavy offense in New York. He's obviously extremely productive. He's involved in the pass game. It's a check-down-heavy pass game. They run a lot of bootleg with Daniel Jones. I don't hate it, but I would push for a little more. If they push back, go back to the original deal you pitched me. Kyle Singer, trade Aaron Jones and Tyler Lockett for George Kittle. I'd be careful with tight ends, man. George Kittle looked amazing, but throughout the whole year, he hasn't looked great, Kyle, relative to years past. When we look at George Kittle, 5 targets, 2 targets, 6 targets. He had 6 targets last game and did really well because the Cardinals are horrible on defense. 424 yards, 4 touchdowns. George Kittle's great, but you're definitely going to get a lot more production from Aaron Jones and Tyler Lockett combined. They would take the trade, but I really don't think that unless you're super light in the tight end position. I think you can stream guys like Greg Dulcich. you could go after a Trey McBride going forward. I think he had a nice opening game. I doubted him. He got 5 points for tight end. That's not horrible. That was with Colt McCoy in there. We'll have to see what Kyler thinks, but yeah. I'm going to go with no for Kittle. I'm not even sure I would do Aaron Jones for... I would probably do Aaron Jones for George Kittle. Or Aaron Jones for George Kittle. John Doe was never a big fan of stuffing growing up. Now I love it with a big pile of fried turkey and a heap of mashed potatoes. Okay. You know what? I love those sweet potatoes with the melted marshmallows on top. Those are phenomenal. So if you haven't tried those, either look them up or see if there's a family member who knows how to make them. They are great. You just melt the marshmallows right on top. Cook the sweet potatoes pretty much like you would mashed. These teams that are technically out of contention just mess everything up. I'm always trying to improve. I know, John. Sometimes we just got to try and... You know who really phenomenal people are to trade with right now? Look for someone who's... What are we heading into? Week 12? 5-6. 4-7. They've got to win out. Tell them you've got some depth for them. Ask them, again, going into this trade, hey, what do you need right now to make a push? Are there any pieces you're interested in? Then make your pitch for your big player. That's my advice. Even tried to do Njoku for Kittle, and they're still so stubborn. Some people just are, and some people are just going to be stubborn in general, and then you got to let it go. Jelly of the month, last one for me. Sit one, PPR, Chubb, Wilson, Aaron Jones, and Ramondre. Don't trust Rashad White quite yet. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I'll be live streaming tomorrow, and I'll have some shorts going up on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So this is not the last you'll see of me, but happy early Thanksgiving to all of you. I hope you'll have an amazing time with your friends and family. I'm glad you're spending it with me. I'm on break from college for a couple of days, so I just figured I'd hop on this live stream and update all of you on injuries and roster updates, but happy Thanksgiving to all of you. It warms my heart that you're willing to say that, and I hope all of you have an amazing time this week. We're going to go with Chubb, obviously. The high usage speaks for itself. We have Jeff Wilson, a reduced role. Aaron Jones against that Eagles team. I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre, I'm okay with. Ramondre, I'm very okay with against the Vikings. Even if Damian Harris starts to get some more usage, it's still a pretty run-heavy scheme under Belichick with Mac Jones there. I don't think he has the full keys to the offense. He's definitely taken a step back this year, has been since training camp. Let's start Chubb. Let's start Ramondre. So we're between Jones and Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson goes up against that weak Texans run defense. It's allowing about 5 yards a carry. Let's go Chubb, Wilson, and Ramondre. Let's actually sit Jones. I don't think this Packers team is, A, going to have much success in the run game. B, I don't think... the Eagles have one of the... I keep forgetting. The Eagles have one of the worst run defenses in the league. You know what? The split usage out of the backfield with Jeff Wilson is probably going to oppose me more than the tough matchup against an Eagles team that has shown they can get run on. Let's go Chubb. Let's go Jones. Let's go Ramondre. Let's leave Jeff Wilson out. We got to let Rashad White settle in. Fournette is still the running back one, but he is questionable coming into this week. And Rashad White is where Isaiah Pacheco was 2 to 3 weeks ago. He doesn't have the role yet, but he is by far more efficient than the guy in his spot right now. I have Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts on IR, and I just don't know who to get. Just picked up Austin Hooper, but who should I get? A guy like Ingram or Logan Thomas? Ingram was heavily involved. At the beginning of the year, Trevor Lawrence does a nice job of spreading the ball out. It's a pass-heavy scheme because the Jaguars lose a lot of games. I like Evan Ingram. Not a big fan of Logan Thomas. It's more the Antonio Gibson check-down game with Taylor Heineke. I like Ingram. I like Greg Dulcich as well for LBR. Brian Pereira. Fried turkey is interesting. Never had it, but I've been wanting it for years. If anyone's ever tried turducken, I'm about to archive this video, but let me know how that is. Big suggestion for all of you. Sweet potatoes with melted marshmallows on top. You will love it. And hopefully you'll love the results going into week 12 with all the advice I've been giving you guys. Again, I'm always just going to put the research that I feel like putting in front of you to help you as much as possible. Never going to guarantee a win, but I'm a firm believer. If you've got the right info in front of you, if you're looking into the context of these different situations, you will have a much better chance at winning. So happy early Thanksgiving, everybody. I will be streaming tomorrow, and I hope to see you there.